This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Very pleasant good morning. It's time for Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research. Don't forget that research report every Sunday night. PrincetonResearch.com with one Michael King and Charles Moscowitz, who's Charles staring Jose in the face. Jose should be arriving sometime tomorrow in Cape Cod. And I'm not sure Charles is even going to be with us today. Who knows what their phone service is all about. Michael, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. Waiting for the great unwind as the Fed begins to sell their $4.2 trillion balance sheet.
Okay, what is going on? Can you kind of explain that? I saw it on CNBC.
Well, you know, over the last few years, the Fed has bought an awful lot of assets to prop up the economy. And now that the economy is doing so well, the market's making new highs every day. They're ready to unwind this balance sheet. They got to do something with the $4.2 trillion portfolio of mortgage and treasury bonds, which is purchased mostly during the financial crisis a few years ago.
Okay.
And now they have all these assets, and they've got to do something with them.
So how unwindy is unwind?
We'll find out.
Oh, man.
Well, we don't know. Nobody knows. I assume the market can take it pretty well. After all, the markets have made new highs almost every day.
Sure. That's what amazes me. It's like almost every day since the inauguration, it seems like the market has gone up. It's like, you've got to be kidding. Yeah, it just keeps going. And actually, oil is up over 50 today, which is kind of intriguing. So, is this Charles?
It is. What's over 50?
Oil.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Charles, are you battening down the hatches, staring Jose in the face?
Nope.
No? 60-mile-an-hour winds coming your way, my friend.
Yeah, well.
You couldn't care less. So what?
Well, you know, it's not that so much as it is, you know, they're usually wrong.
Okay, well.
But down, 50, 60 miles from here, actually 75 miles from here down on the Cape, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, and it will be.
I certainly wouldn't want to be on Nantucket or at the Vineyard.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because those are the spots that's going to get. It's very foggy here this morning. I don't know what that's about, but it's, very foggy.
Uh-oh, yeah. Yeah, well, Mike was just talking about the great unwind, and it's everybody's waiting to see what the Fed does. And
that unwind. Yes. I thought you were talking about, going to your favorite bar.
They start tomorrow
having
afternoon.
A drink and unwind.
Yeah, well,
Wednesday afternoon.
That's Mike. When the Fed unwinds, do you head to a bar and unwind as well? That's
well,
the ultimate
at the
question.
same time, the Fed is unwinding. So Draghi's going to unwind also. So we'll have to see how the world takes all this, all these assets.
Wow.
Or not.
Huh. Interesting. That is very interesting. I don't
Yes.
know. Huh. Okay. Well, some, I guess if you're a little kid, staggering news last night with Toys R Us filing for bankruptcy. Best Buy looks like it's in trouble again.
This is not the first time that they were bankrupt.
Oh, I didn't know
They've
that.
been bankrupt. They've been taken private. They've been reissued public. mean, you know,
Well,
it's been a great vehicle for those who wanted to, you know, play with it.
what was very interesting, of course, we do the WPSL Christmas Kids and buy toys for 1,000 kids. So, when we started looking around, they were almost 10 to 20 bucks higher on almost everything. I mean, and so Walmart and Target just creamed them, and even Walgreens.
And those are the easy places. I mean, you want to see someone who really, destroys them. Take a look at. All you got to do is sign online, because there's plenty of Amazon has, anything you could possibly want.
Yeah,
they
we've
deliver
never done
for
that.
nothing.
See, we've never done that, and that's probably be something very smart for the charity to do. Interesting. But did you see today where Kohl's, and of course their stock's going through the roof now, Kohl's is going to take Amazon returns?
Yep.
What a stroke of genius on their part.
Yeah. Well, it's modeled after the Whole Foods deal, where you can pick up stuff or, leave it there also.
Wow. That's going to be very interesting.
But I'm going to guess there are more Kohl's than there are, Whole Foods.
Right.
Maybe not. I mean, you don't have two Kohl's in a small town, but you could easily have, two of the others.
Right.
From where I'm sitting right now, about 3.5 miles away is a Whole Foods that's a smaller version, the junior version of Whole Foods, and then about 4 miles in the other direction is a regular Whole Foods. So, and there's only one Kohl's that I can think of, and that happens to be in the same center as the Whole Foods.
Okay.
But I've been pretty amazed at them. I mean, first of all, it's a place that you can shop for a lot of things. You can shop for linens or menswear or sportswear or a Keurig, and the pricing is very much in line with. It's more of a discount, I would say. And then, you walk in, they give you, for every $100 that you spend, they give you a $20 certificate to, shop a week later. So, they have a decent operation.
Yeah, interesting stuff. You look at. Yeah, retail is just going to change dramatically. It really is. When you start looking around, Carol and I were out and about a few weeks back and just wandering through a mall, which we haven't been to in a long, long time. And they were all stores we'd never heard of. And, they're all kind of for the younger generation, I guess, clothing stores.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that those stores are under their stores' names, but they're all owned by other companies.
Okay.
I mean, you think about, like, Victoria's Secret may or may not be in the mall, but it's owned by L Brands. So, there are 4 or 5 L Brands. There's Express, which is owned by L Brands. You could walk into a mall and walk by 3 retail clothing places, and they may all be owned by the same person.
Really?
Yeah,
huh.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. That's oh man. Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to Best Buy. I mean, their chairman says, "Oh, we fixed everything we're supposed to fix." Then their stock goes down 7.5%. So I don't know.
Hey, I tell you, want to know something though? Over the last year and a half or 2 years, that's been the home run retail stock. I mean, everybody thought that, if you recall, thinking back about it, they were, quote, the Amazon showroom, where people went to price and to look and see what was available and then went home and ordered it on Amazon. And the stock was, in the very low teens, may have actually even been a one-digit stock, and since then it's been back to 50. So, 7.5% today into the, high 30s is still better than most retail. You look at Macy's, Macy's didn't have that run, and a year and a half ago it was a $70 stock, selling for $20 now.
Wow.
So, I mean, they've done, Best Buy has done very well. And they also have the price match. And, for those of us who are either not able to or not wanting to, you can walk into Best Buy and buy a computer or a laptop and tell them everything you want on it. And the Geek Squad people, do all the work, and a half hour later you walk out with essentially what is a computer that does absolutely everything that you want it to and has all of the methodology and all of the software that you wanted, and it's like having it customized.
Yeah.
Right there for you.
Uh-huh.
So there are things that they have that others don't have. The other side of it is they have this, I can't remember what it's called, Magnolia something or other, which is their big screen, flat screen, theater-type products that, their pricing is unbelievable. I mean, it's just ridiculous because it's a kind of, these flat screens have kind of become a commodity.
Yeah, they really have. I was noticing something popped up on my phone from Walmart. The screens are now 100 inches. It's like, what? You need an entire wall for the television set.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a big one over my fireplace downstairs, and it's probably a 70. And it's big and it's nice, and again, it's just a commodity. And frankly, I buy almost all of my TVs at Walmart because they carry Vizio, which seems to be the commodity brand, and I've never had any trouble with them, and they're inexpensive.
They are not only inexpensive, but that is one company. I think they're New England-based as well. I remember years ago when they started, the lady made the announcement on ESPN, and that they were going to do this and specialize in television for sports programming, and it was it was very interesting. Yeah. But, outside of like these commodities like televisions and things like that, what else is going on in your worlds? I know, Mike, you're right in the middle of metals country. Are they doing okay, or are they getting shot down, or what's happening?
Yes, there's a lot of new mines opening, especially for lithium.
Real? Oh, yeah. I'll bet.
Lithium and cobalt.
For batteries?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll bet. So are a lot of those mines in Nevada and Arizona, Michael?
I don't know about Arizona, but they're proliferated in Nevada. Nevada has really a lot of lithium.
Well, I had to wonder, of course, obviously Arizona was the copper state, with all the copper mining that went on there for many, many years. But I wondered if they had lithium as well in some of those old copper mines that they could regenerate.
Probably.
That brings up a really interesting company that is still private that's about to go public sometime, between now and the end of the year, I believe, that Mike discovered and that I went and saw. It's a company called K2 Energy. And
like the letter K?
Yep.
K2, and just like the
and
number.
They make all kinds of batteries and stuff, but what's interesting about these guys is, first of all, they've not taken any private money up until now. They've spent 10 or 12 years building it using their own dime. But what's interesting, and the reason that I bring it up is because you're talking about all these different metals. There is a set standard that most of these companies go by. And, it's like going into CVS. You can buy Benadryl or you can buy CVS's version of it. It's exactly the same thing with the same active ingredients. But what K2 is doing is K2 has a completely different type of battery. I'm trying to remember exactly what they said. It's what they do to make it is different than most of the others. Now, you remember that when they started with the 787 at Boeing, they had problems with the batteries that were too close together and generated too much heat. And then, of course, there were the batteries in the Samsung phones that were ridiculous.
Sure.
And then there were the batteries last Christmas in those hoverboard type things that were sold all over the place. These guys have their own methodology and, for lack of a better way of putting it, their own recipe for what goes into it, and it's available. There are several different under the heading lithium-ion batteries that have completely different science behind them, different combinations of different things. Like this K2 has a battery that doesn't heat up. So, that's important. It's important to, in the cell phone or, anything else. Really.
Oh, sure.
And so, if the science is different, then, a lithium battery is a lithium, it's not a rose is a rose is a rose. There are different types and different science. And, a lot of the things that there are mined right there in Nevada.
Wow.
We're in the northwest corner of Nevada for some reason.
So that would be up by Reno or that general area. Okay. Wow.
And if you recall, that was one of the sites that that they were talking about putting one of those gigafactories. So Elon Musk was, all over that particular area.
Interesting.
Yes, they've been developing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They have trouble getting employees. That's one of the big problems.
To Nevada? There's no state tax, right?
The northwest section is very lonely, desolate.
Well,
except for Reno, there's really not much up there.
Yeah, well, in
Reno is still far away from the plant.
Right.
How far are you talking about, Michael?
You're talking 50, 60 miles to drive every day.
Oh, man.
Well, in Nevada with their speed limits, you can go that 50 or 60 miles in, 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, but
it takes me 3/4 of an hour to go from here to Boston, and Boston is only 21 miles.
Yeah, but still, you battle snow, when they get it up there in the northern part of Nevada. Yeah, wow. I didn't realize that it was that far. I just assumed it was Reno, but no, that sounds like that's way in the middle of nowhere. Oh, man. Wow. So how many...
It can get very boring up there.
Yeah, I'll bet it can. Well, you used to hear the crazy stories about Alaska, when they were putting in that pipeline that it was very lonely up in that area of the world, that's for sure. Wow. So they're having problems finding workers up there, huh?
Sure. That's always a problem. That's a big problem now in the U.S. is the economy has expanded and workers are becoming more scarce.
We do the IRSC Startup Talk Show here and at Indian River State College. And there, I guess one of our EDC people was talking about, apparently it's almost, the number is now 6 million jobs are open in the United States. And there are just a lot of people who aren't qualified for them. I mean, that's kind of a staggering number if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's for sure.
yeah.
And a lot of those jobs are not necessarily, highly educated specialists. I mean, they're regular everyday jobs too.
Well,
There's plenty of admin jobs in the paper or online as available, and they just can't fill them.
Yeah,
and if technology changes, they have to retrain them anyway.
Sure. Well, and that's what the college is doing. There's a small manufacturing company in Palm City that works with Boeing. Well, they've got orders out for 30 years.
Right.
At that company. And, you think about what a place to work. You're guaranteed to have a job for like 30 years. And they're desperately looking for new workers here. And you think and the money there is, 30, 40, $50 an hour. I mean, those are serious jobs.
Yeah.
But that's the whole new manufacturing thing,
It is that.
So what do you guys think is going to be happening here near term? I mean, can the market just keep doing what it's doing, or?
Well, we've got to see how the markets absorb the unwinding of the balance sheets, both here and in Europe. You're talking between here and Europe, you're talking $7 trillion. You're talking a lot of money to be unwound.
So
I've often pondered that exact question, of course, and the thing that I don't necessarily understand is why in the short-term market, which is where they bought a lot, why they don't just roll them over when they come due.
Well, I
in
think
other words, why don't they just let them expire, get their money back into the Treasury, and not have to. You don't have to necessarily sell the bonds that are held in the portfolios as much as just letting them come to their natural end, which is repayment.
You sound just like the Fed. That's what they're saying.
That's very interesting.
I wondered if when we started at, let's say, 4% and drove yields in the 10-year down to 1.6, which was around, well, actually it was a little lower, it was down to 1.3, but in that 1.6 to 2 range, there's no mystery about bonds. You buy a 5% bond at par, and rates go down 20%, the bond goes up 20%. So, they were sitting there at the lows in the interest rates when everybody is scratching their head and trying to figure out what to do. If they would have just gone in and sold them, they would have realized the profit on them. Now, it's true that takes a little bit of money out of circulation, but the gains were dramatic. I mean, if you think about a 4% market in a market that in the cash market becomes 1.6, those bonds have doubled in order to reflect that yield.
All right.
That I guess that makes too much sense.
Yeah, it does. I got it. Since you guys is so into this, we were joking about this yesterday on the air. Austria has come up with a 100-year bond. Now, I don't know about you guys, but somehow I don't think I'm going to quite be around to cash that.
No. You know
Why
who else
would
has a 100-year?
What?
You know who else has a 100-year bond that they did a couple of years ago?
Who?
Disney.
Disney. Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Oh.
Disney has a 100-year bond. I don't think that you can buy it for individuals, but there are two different bond markets. There's the bond market for institutions, and then there's the bond market for individuals. And a lot of these things, like somebody mentioned Tesla convertible bond last week on CNBC, and my first thought was, wow, that would be terrific, because the stock continues to go up, and you end up not having to sell the bonds, you just exercise it into stock. Well, that bond was never sold to the public. That bond is totally institutionally held. So while it's out there and it does exist, it doesn't exist for you and I. We can't take advantage of it. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying there are definitely two markets for this stuff.
Okay, but my question, why would anybody buy a 100-year bond?
Well, because, okay, let me give you an example of why somebody, first of all, it would only be done with an institution, and it would only be done in a corporate structure where, the structure continues to survive. And when you look at it that way, and you can get 4% in a 1.5% market and get it, going out 100 years, that becomes very attractive.
I think Andy,
especially like you're talking about Austria, you're talking about a place that, with the exception of another world war, is definitely going to be around for, that period of time. I wish we would do, we canceled the 30-year bonds only to bring it back 3 or 4 years later. And 30 years was a pretty standard number.
Wow, that's really interesting. So do we have a guest here?
Andy?
Hello.
It's Rick Schumacher. I had it marked down to
Hey,
give
Rick.
you guys a call at 10:30.
Hey, Rick. Well, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
What's going on with your company here?
Well, a lot's going on with Pressure Biosciences.
Well, yeah, last time you had a ton of information for us. Pressure Biosciences seems to be exploding now. So what kind of news do you have for us this week?
Well, we sent out news yesterday. In fact, I'm very, very proud of it. We let everybody know that we were named a finalist in the R&D 100 awards. These are often called the Oscars of innovation. They're pretty much looked at by many, many people as the top award that a company can win for its products, in one of the top in the world. It's an annual award. It's been going on, I think, guys, for like 54 years, and we're in some pretty good company. The other finalists are groups like General Motors and IBM and Illumina and Los Alamos and Pacific Northwest National Laboratories. The Lincoln Lab at MIT are all in the finalists, and so Pressure Biosciences with our 2320 Extreme is now a finalist in the R&D 100 awards. So they look at all the what they call all the revolutionary technologies of the previous year, 2016, and they have a panel of judges of over 50 R&D judges from around the country, around the world, and they narrow it down to a group that they have as finalists, and we're in that group. So I got to tell you guys, we're very, very proud of this.
Well, as well you should. That's absolutely amazing when you think about that. Now, how does that translate to business for you?
Well, in the press release we sent out yesterday, which is on our website, there was a quote from Professor Phil Robinson, and Professor Robinson is the co-director of the Cancer Research Center at the Children's Medical Research Institute in Sydney, Australia. And they were the first international collaborator with the U.S.'s Cancer Moonshot. We talked a little bit in the past about the Cancer Moonshot.
Yes.
This is a program that President Obama and Vice President Biden put into place in January of 2016 that was to spur on research in cancer to try to do in the next 5 years what would normally take 10. And there's a lot of things going on with the cancer moonshot. And I know that Vice President Biden was just in Dublin over the weekend speaking to a bunch of people. We were there about the cancer moonshot effort. And Professor Robinson owned 3 of our instruments and was committed to testing 70,000 tumor samples, looking for biomarkers and targets to try to make better sense of what drugs one should be on, or maybe what drugs a cancer patient should not be on, by looking at these markers and targets. And he said, and we put it in the quotation, he said, because of the value of our instrument, he could not do his program without it, and he's given us an order for 2 more instruments.
That's great. Good stuff. So he'll have he'll have 5?
He'll have 5.
Wow.
Yeah, he'll have 5 instruments. And, you know, we often get asked, does someone order more than one? And I said, well, we've got almost 300 instruments in the field and about 160 customers. So, yes, we do have a number of groups that order 2, sometimes 3. But 5 is 5's a record, to have 5 instruments in one lab. But, you know, guys, they're screening 70,000 cancer samples, 70,000 tumor samples, and they got to break them all up. And what we do is we squeeze them with pressure, just like squeezing a sponge. We squeeze every one of them individually, and we believe we get the biomolecules that are inside those tumor samples, inside those biopsies, out better, in better shape and higher quality than the standard methods that are out there. And because of that, we're getting guys like Professor Robinson that are switching to us and are now willing to say things publicly about how good the results are coming from our product. So that's really terrific.
Rick, that's amazing. So dare I even ask, 70,000? I mean, that almost sounds like a lifelong project. How much time is that going to take the good doctor down in Sydney to analyze 70,000 tumors?
Yeah, and you got to add to that 70,000 the controls that they run, and then sometimes you get indeterminate results. You got to rerun. So there's probably 100,000 tests, and so getting 5 of our instruments, and these are combined with 5 of our partner. Remember, our co-marketing partner, SciEx, which is the largest mass spectrometry company in the world. The guys that sell this $500,000 to $1 million machine that reads what we get out of the cell. They read it. They read the proteins as we squeeze them out. They're a Danaher company, which is an $80 billion company. So we're in good company here. It can take them 5 to 7 years to get through these using 5 mass spectrometers and 5 of our barocyclers. So it's a job security for people there. But you know, the results they're going to get could just change the way that we treat cancer patients. That's what they're trying to do by looking at 70,000 different samples, they all have a clinical history. They know what drugs they were on. They know what drugs they were not on. They know the outcome. To be able to look at these on a microscopic, level, and to try to find things we've never seen before, it's just so darn exciting for us. We continue to tell people at Pressure Bio, we're a small company, but we're a double investment. One is we're here to try to make people money, but we're also here to make an impact, and so it's an impact investment that can make you money. So it's good in both ends.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I mean that really is, and in the research community, I mean that's got to bring you guys a ton of attention, I would think.
It has. We're in this meeting in Dublin, and on the very first night, in the very first couple of hours, we had 6 groups from around the world that came to our booth to talk about the instrument and what it could do and how it could help them. And that was just the opening night. So we're excited about that. And I wanted to let you know, Mike was kind enough to invite me on the show today, and I knew we had this news coming out, so I'm happy to say that we're a finalist. We may not win, but we may win. But the important thing is for us to be recognized by these panel of 50 R&D groups from around the world to have one of the top new innovative technologies of 2016. Just to be recognized as a finalist is just awesome, and I send a congratulations to my entire company, my entire team. It's just so exciting for us. And it doesn't end there. I don't have time, and maybe you'll invite me back in a week or two, but I will say that I gave a talk last week. We had a press release inviting, and there's a webcast that's on our website, pressurebiosciences.com, and we gave a little bit of information about 2 patents that were not allowed but were issued in China. And I don't have time to go on to it, but I'd love to talk about it in a week or two. But we have 2 patents that are being submitted around the world, and already in China we were given a very quick review and a very quick what they call a utility model patent. It's a 10-year patent on each of them, and it's exciting because it basically allows us to create what we call nano emulsions, make things much smaller to a nano level, and this has implications in food, in commercial lubricants, in oil, in cosmetics, and so we're very excited about this, and hopefully in a couple of weeks you'll invite me back on and we can talk about it in more depth.
Boy, that's
I want to hear more about this.
Yeah, you're right, Michael. That sounds amazing. Mike, questions for Rick?
Yeah, you're talking about smaller molecules. How small?
Oh, these are very, very small. To get a little technical, they're about 100 nanometers or smaller. Realize that when you put things together like oil and vinegar, oil and water, they don't mix very well. But if you can chop them down to smaller pieces, they will mix. And they'll clarify, and you can see right through them, and there'll be a full mixture. And so we have a method that we filed a patent on that we believe will allow us to mix things like oil and water and have a mix and be very clear and remain mixed. And you do this by taking some of the product and breaking it into smaller and smaller pieces. And when you do that, they get soluble, and they go into the other solution, and they become mixed. And so you can imagine the potential of something like this in areas like food. I told someone the other day, I'm sitting here having a salad, and I'm putting one of my favorite dressings, just oil and vinegar on it, and you got to mix it really fast in your hand and pour it on, because it starts to separate right away. What if you could mix that by using a method like our new method that's been patented in China, and we believe has a chance to get patented in many countries throughout the world. So whether it's cosmetics or even pharmaceuticals, when you think about 2 things that are what we call immiscible, they don't mix. If there's a way to mix them in a very safe, quick manner, you can solve a lot of issues in a lot of different areas, and so that's what we do. We mix them by using a way to break them apart into smaller pieces under pressure. And of course, we are the pressure company, and so we know very much what we're doing in the area of pressure. So we came about this a few years ago when we were trying to break DNA into smaller pieces to be read. And the gentleman who was running that project, Dr. Ting, was also one of the pioneers 15 years ago in using high pressure to kill bacteria in food. If you go to Starbucks, for instance, and you buy their Evolution juice, that Evolution juice has no chemicals, no additives. It's pure natural because they've used high pressure to kill the bacteria, reduce the bacteria load. Well, we're using high pressure to do that. And we're using it to do other things, and including mixing samples that don't normally mix. So excited about that. So, guys, there's tremendous things going on. We've already given guidance that we believe the third quarter, which ends in a couple weeks, will be our best quarter in the history of the company. We've already given that guidance. Now we've got the 2 patents in China that are issued. We've been nominated. Our main instrument's been nominated for an R&D 100. So, yeah, we're feeling pretty good here in Boston right now.
Yeah, I'll bet you are. I still don't understand the concept of mixing water and oil without like a chemical or something like that. I think that would be amazing if you could somehow pull that off.
Well, there are many, many things that cannot and do not get mixed well or at all. And so we do a lot of things to mix them. We use emulsifiers, some of which are approved for food, some of which cannot be used in food. But we have all kinds of things in life that that require them to be mixed. And if you can break the shred or break or what we call shear, we call it ultra shear technology. If you can break some of what you're trying to mix into smaller and smaller pieces, it is easier to be mixed without having to add a lot of chemicals to it. Sometimes you add chemicals, sometimes you don't. But again, I'd love to go into this in more detail later on, but I think it's the main takeaway message is we've got a method that we believe that will allow us in pharmaceuticals, in cosmetics, in food, in many different areas to more able to mix samples that don't normally mix by using high pressure and ultra shear by breaking the samples down into smaller pieces so they become more soluble. And we believe it's patentable, and we've already been proven correct in China with 2 issued patents in the last few weeks. So a lot of good things going on here at Pressure Biosciences.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that is definitely Filament 11 coming up, huh? That sounds amazing. That sounds absolutely amazing.
Are you getting patents in the U.S.?
We are entering what's called the national phase. The way it works is we've had these patents in for 18 months, actually 30 months when you count even the original, what we call provisional patent. So you get to 30 months. It's time now to we've got them locked in, but we have to designate which countries we want them to be reviewed in, and we have to pay lots of fees, Mike. So it's something which we take very seriously, but it's a wonderful problem to have because in this case we want to file these patents, and we have the priority date that goes back 18 months ago. So we have that date, but now and we're given 18 months of a free run, and then at the end of 18 months you've got to decide, okay, which countries, and now we have to designate individual countries around the world that we want to file in, and yes, we'll be filing in the U.S. We plan to file in the U.S. and Canada and many countries in Europe, and so in this case, it's a labor of joy. We're going to try to figure out what we can afford and probably file in as many possible countries as we can.
Rick,
and we have till September 28th to get everything filed.
Rick, it seems like there should be some sort of a international patent. I mean, my goodness,
hear you, Greg.
That it seems like there should be like an international patent because this is crazy if you have to do each individual country.
There is a what's called a PCT, not to be confused with pressure cycling technology, which is what we call our main technology, but there is a patent cooperative treaty, a PCT, and that's what we filed in, and many countries will abide by that. Some don't, like China and Taiwan, so you file separately. But I'd say the vast majority of countries around the world abide by the PCT, the Patent Cooperative Treaty. But once you get to the point where it's moving along and it's getting close, you have to decide at that point which countries. So we're given the free ride, so to speak, for the last 18 months through the PCT, and it gives us what's called the priority date. So we know it goes back 18 months. So no one's going to beat us to this patent because even though we're just kind of filing it in the U.S. now because U.S. recognizes and respects the Patent Cooperative Treaty. So we'll go back 18 months, but as soon as we designate, we start getting reviewed in these countries. So it can be a pretty quick process. This is something that could take a year or 2 years from this point, not 4. So it's exciting times for us. The fact that it's been issued in China in both of them is exciting. The fact that we're going to be going to the national phase and filing directly in multiple countries is exciting, and we just add this to the other things that are going on in the company right now. So I know that you've been kind enough to have me on your show for about a year, and and I know that some of your listeners have probably invested, and we have an obligation to do everything we can to try to bring them a return on that investment. And I'm very proud of the work that this company's done. My guys have done over the last year to really move all these things along.
So then, rather than say a real long, dragged out process of say 10 years, I mean, you're looking at maybe another couple once you start filing and say using USA, Canada, Great Britain, or whatever as examples. Then you would know whether you've got the patent for it.
Yes, very very good point. It's because of the way that it works. We're basically been treated as if we filed 18 months ago, and it will have that priority date. It'll move along, and this should not be. This should be something that we should be hearing, over the next couple of years, whether we get it or not. We think we have a good chance of getting the patent issued. There's no guarantee, but the fact that they were issued in China is a positive sign. And of course, a lot of this is proprietary anyway, so we don't necessarily patent everything we've got. Sometimes we just like to keep it quiet and proprietary because it's, once you patent things, people can see how you did it. And so sometimes we don't patent things that are we want to keep secret and we think that belongs to the shareholders. And so we have certain technologies that we're working on that we may never patent. But in this case, yes, I think we'll know in the coming, maybe year or 2 years whether or not we get them. And if we do, it will be very exciting for us because this is a broad-based technology. This is the ability to take particles and make them smaller, so it's not just in life science. We're talking everything from lubricants out there, commercial lubricants, to food, to cosmetics, to drugs, to all these things that you have trouble mixing. We might be able to come up with a solution for.
So I've never known anybody who's even filed for a patent. Is a patent a public document? I mean, can any company look at your patent?
Yes, at 18 months.
Really?
Every patent is published. So if you were to file today a patent, 18 months from today, your patent gets published and everybody can see what you filed a patent on, and it gives you 18 months to move it along. So sometimes people do not file patents for that reason. They think it's secretive enough that they want to just keep it to themselves. So when you think of a company that's got intellectual property, it's a combination of proprietary know-how as well as their patents. So everybody asks, how many patents do you have? Well, we've got 15 issued patents, and now we have 2 more. So now we have 17 issued patents, and that's important. That gives us protection. It keeps people from being able to use it without our permission or without paying us. But we also have a lot of intellectual property at Pressure Biosciences. From 10 years of working with high pressure, we've learned how to utilize it in ways that, quite frankly, we're just going to keep it to ourselves and work and make products on it and let others kind of wonder how we did it.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. And you always seem...
Doesn't the EU have a patent that once you file it within the EU, you get all of the companies, all of the countries?
Yes, that's the PCT, but you don't get all of them. What it does is, it used to be that if I wanted to file in Germany and France and Great Britain, I'd have to file 3 patents. Now I can file this PCT, which covers all of the EU and the U.S. and Canada and many others. But it gets to a certain point that then you have to decide, all right, each country says, are you going to file it specifically in my country? And in some cases, you have to translate. So in Germany, you have to translate in German. In Spain, you have to translate in Spanish. And so it gets to be fairly expensive in certain countries. And that's the position we're in now. But we think we've got one heck of a patent filing, and so we're looking at filing in more countries than we normally file in.
Charles, what does the stock for Pressure Biosciences look like?
It's been in this $4 area for a while. It's consolidated.
Like 4.25 bid.
Mm-hmm.
4.50.
Okay. Yeah. So, and the stock symbol, Rick?
Stock symbol is PBIO, Pressure Bio, Peter, Boy, Indigo, Orange, PBIO. And yes, we've had this discussion before. We, as a CEO and a founder, I think this company is significantly undervalued. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I think that the guidance we've given, which the lawyers hate me to do, but I've given it, the guidance that we believe we're going to have the best quarter in the history of the company in terms of sales of instruments, sales of consumables, overall revenue, the fact that we have these 2 patents that are issued, the fact that we have the patents will be filed in many, many countries of proprietary date going back 18 months, the fact that we have a brand new machine that honestly has opened up our market and just won an award earlier this year, but now nominated for maybe the best innovation award that one could get in the world, the R&D 100. I'd say that we're on a bit of a roll now, and we're very excited about it and appreciate, and I know that your radio show and your ability to help get the word out has helped us a lot, and we just thank you for it.
Well, Rick Schumacher, thank you so much for being on board again. And, boy, you always seem to come armed with some amazing stories. I still am in the state of shock over that Australian research company that bought 3 more machines from you. I think that's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal.
We think so, too. So now they have 5. We're excited about it, and but our goal is to make sure that there's a big world out there, and believe it or not, with 300 instruments roughly out there, we think there's thousands of laboratories, We think there's 80,000 labs that could possibly use it. And as you know, we just hired our sales team, so we haven't even seen the impact of our sales team. Most of the new salespeople were hired over the past few months and are being trained, and they're actually out in the field this week and last week for the first time. So the impact of a brand new sales team. This is a company that's had 1 salesperson for the last 7 or 8 years. Now we have 5 out there, and I think that impact is going to be significant also. And I don't think this is something that investors will have to wait, a year or 2 to see, because we hired very good people. We've got them trained. We're known out there. We have the instruments, so we're gonna get out there in the fourth quarter and pardon my French, a little bit kick butt.
There you go. All right. Well, Boston strong. Pressure Biosciences. No doubt about it. Rick Schumacher, thank you very much for being with us again. And, wow. Oh, so informative, Mr. Mike King, huh?
Thank you.
All right. And we will be back with Princeton Research Money Info next week. Wow. Very interesting guy, Rick Schumacher. Pressure Biosciences, PBIO, stock symbol. Take a look. You've been listening to Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research. Don't forget the research report with Michael King and Charles Moscowitz. It comes out every Sunday night. And Charles, you hunker down, man. Having just gone through Irma. Jose looks like a large one, too. Hopefully it stays offshore and doesn't cream you guys. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie.